Hello, precious people. I'm Jacqueline Parks. Welcome to my studio, Stampin' Turtles. Today we are going to be doing something really fun. Let me make sure that we are going live because I've been trying to double check that lately. So just making sure. So far it's not doing anything. Let's see. It is notifying people that I am live.
In my studio, Stampin'
Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, so we got volume, we got picture, we got it all going on right now. Let me show you my desk real quick because I wanted to just get right into what we're going to talk about today. So I just did these two little, I did find my sketchbook. Remember I was saying I couldn't find my sketchbook? I found it. Found my sketchbook. Anyways, so I just did these two real quick, like less than 10 minutes, I think, on each one, which is really what I want you guys to focus on today. I want you to focus on how to improve your watercolors with this quick, easy tip. So it's going to be something that I think you will get a lot of value out of and enjoy doing, along with me. Now, if you don't have your stuff ready to paint right now, you can just watch and come back to the video later. It will be up in my live tab, always and forever, to be shared forever. But for right now, if you could just give me a like on the video, maybe leave a comment, say hi, where you're from, and that would be really helpful to push this out to more people, because my goal is to really help people enjoy watercolor and enjoy this. Did it just drop some frames? I am plugged into my Wi-Fi. Why is it not doing? Why? Is it not plugged into my Wi-Fi? I was pretty sure it was. Who knows, right? Who knows what I'm doing? Yeah, it's plugged in. It's plugged in. Anyways, so I have some paper. Let me show you what size paper I have. So this was a full sheet of 9 by 12 arch paper, and I cut it in half. So I'm going to get two 5 by 7s out of this, perfect for framing, and I think you'll enjoy this size for painting because it's not so overwhelming, right? You don't want to be overwhelmed by things. So the most important thing when painting is to have fun. Why are you doing this if you are not having fun? And I will tell you, in the past, I was not having fun in my 20s when I took a class at a local high school. It was just for fun because in art school they didn't teach me watercolor. I don't know why, but we focused more on acrylic and oil, and that was great. Learned a lot with that. But here's the thing: watercolor is my jam now, so I like watercolor. But back in my 20s when I took a class, it was not that fun. And I don't know why, but I think it was because the size of the paper was just too big and it was making me overwhelmed. So let's start small. You don't have to have something that's like, 24 inches by 32 inches or something. That's what I think we started with. So this is great. This is very simple, and it's a manageable size. Oh, let me show you guys what I have in mind for you to be painting. Okay, let me show you something here. So look at these two images. I found these on the internet, correct? Because sometimes you got to get inspiration. I do. I always need inspiration, right? So when I started painting, I wanted to paint the one on the right. See, those mountains are kind of fading into the background. You barely see those ones the furthest away. The ones up close you see really crystal clear. So now you go back to what I painted. So what I painted was real faint mountains in the background. That's what I wanted, right? I wanted those little faint, barely noticeable, okay? And then on the left, you see this painting, or picture, I should say, photograph. I like these trees in the foreground. So I really wanted to capture some trees in my painting. So I did put a few. And then I did end up making like a lake almost with the reflections, but very loose, not super detailed. But I thought it was just kind of cool to have that to make my own. So here you are. I took 2 photographs that are off the internet and combined them and created my own little pretty painting. Now this is in a sketchbook. It's not meant to be a work of art to hang on the wall. These are just for me to practice and do some fun things. So that's what I was doing. But let's do this. So let's paint this one. And this one is going to be 5x7. We can do it landscape this way or portrait. Since I do a lot of landscape paintings, I think I'm going to do this one. I mean, portrait paintings. I think I'm going to do this one landscape style. I think that'll be good. I think that'll be a good one. Now, as you can see on my palette, I already have some really cool grainy blue colors, right? So what I like to do is not waste paint, right? So we're just gonna re-wet what was on my palette. Try and using one color, right? I also want to do re-wet this one. I like these colors too. So they're kind of similar. One's more green, one's more blue. But basically they're similar. And so now those are nice and juicy. And what I want to do with this paper, leave my paints right there. I want to paint the whole sky this kind of color. And we're going to do the whole thing. So I'm just going to wet it with that color, okay? So you might be like, oh no, what are you doing? We're just wetting this whole, and I have some kind of weird brown on my, and that happened with my sketchbook too. For some reason, there's something in my palette, maybe, or on my brush. I don't know where it's at, but it's okay. We can always cover up mistakes. So right now, I just got this whole thing. Look at that. It's just very wet with a tinge of that bluish color. Okay, and I will be using my heat tool because I am not patient enough to let this, and you're not going to want to sit here and watch paint dry. Do a little multitasking and drink my tea. Ooh, this is getting nice and dry. I like it. And see, there's a lot of shine still on one side. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. Very shiny. I want to get rid of that shine. Get rid of that. Okay. Sometimes if you heat it on the back, you can do something there. I don't know. Ooh, come on. Perfect. That's good enough for me. And it's still damp, y'all, but it's not wet like it was. Shiny, shiny wet. But also what I wanted you guys to see, and that's what's great about watching live videos, is that you get the full start to finish, like how long it really does take to make a painting. A lot of these tutorials online are sped up so that you can, watch the full process in 20 minutes, which I know your time is valuable, but I try to keep it under an hour, so, or about an hour for this. All right, so now we're going to go back to this kind of bluey color that I made up, and hopefully no browns are in there. So what I'm going to do is kind of follow along with, let me see if I can pull up my picture again on my phone. It's so hard sometimes. Let me see. Wow. No, that's taking a picture. Okay. So I do want to pull this up maybe, or even this one. and just kind of follow that mountain line in the background. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I kind of follow, and as you see, there's some mountains. They're all kind of about the same size, right? But maybe this one's a little bit bigger. And see all that? Now we're going to pick up a little more color. And I don't want you guys to fussy paint. Fussy paint is just too much of the paint, but we are going to go all the way down, I think. Maybe. Just keep adding some of that color in there. And I feel like I didn't do this really good. Let me see. There we go. So now we're just going to let that dry and see what happens next. Now I don't think I mixed up enough of this. Oops, we got a lot of text messages. But I think it's important to have different brushes. So this one is kind of like an angled brush. This might help you get a better straight edge on your mountains. So I'm going to mix up a little bit more with my Payne's Gray. And what I'm going to do when I mix up my Payne's Gray right here, because we want it to be a little bit darker than the first layer. So I'm mixing up this, and it's a darker color, darker layer. So now we can go back to the photo and look at that. And see, where do we want to put that? So we can do, and we can go and see, we're just getting that nice. Look how dark that is. Now see, this area over here is really wet. You can see it kind of bleeding a little bit. Let me go do a close-up for y'all so you can see what I'm talking about. See, this area right here is still really damp. All this is really, I'm just going to fill that in. It's really dry on that side. You can add more water over there. But basically, you're just trying to get it down to the bottom. I keep picking up that brown wherever it is. I don't know where it's at on here. Must be getting the side of my palette. I need to probably do a full-on cleaning of this palette. I just like to hold on to paints, I think. So we're looking at that. It's real nice and soft. So we're going to zoom back out. So I'm going to put this down and do some more drying on this. That's the thing about this, is you got a lot of drying to do in between layers. So that should be good. Let's see what happens if I add a little more Payne's Gray to my palette and bring in some of that brown and green. See how I'm mixing these two kind of together? So they're almost basically the same color. I'm definitely going to make this one more of a prominent. It needs a little more. See, look at that. So you're like, okay, how am I going to make my painting so much better? Here's the key to that. And it's the contrast between your background backgrounds and your foregrounds. So a lot of times you think, oh, I don't need to change the color too much, but already you're looking at this painting and you're like, I can tell that there's some mountains that are closer and mountains that are further away. Now, sometimes just looking at a picture and trying to paint that is hard to do. You can try and do the grayscale, like, for instance, these are black and white photos. So you can see where the blackest blacks are, and you can see where the whites are, or the super light gray is in these photos. So that's what gives these two photos a lot of interest. You see the mist in the valley on the trees. You see the mist in front of those mountains. So those are things that help give interest and definition to your painting. So with watercolor too, here's the thing you got to remember. Do not expect it to look like the finished product the first time. Like the first time you start putting your brush on the painting, because everything has to dry. Everything is a layer. And then there's going to be, as we define these ones up in the front, we're going to let them dry and then add more depth. In fact, watch what happens when I just put pure Payne's Gray on there. And see, I'm just adding it onto the one side of the mountain, right? And you can do kind of a fun thing with these little points because they're more defined towards the front. So they're not so roundy looking, right? They're more defined. And so I'm just adding straight Payne's Gray. It's still wet. That's what I love about Arch paper. It stays wet. Sometimes I want it to dry a little faster, but it doesn't. So now look at that. Isn't that so pretty? Now what's happening in the foreground? Now remember, there's something going on in the foreground here. Look at this photo on the right. There's a lot of dark and light contrast. So to make this painting look a little more interesting, we're going to have to do that. We're going to have to get some of that pure Payne's Gray. And what we may do is just kind of swoop and fill that in. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? I love how that looks. And with this brush, it's super easy to put some trees. And see, that's still wet. Look how it bleeds out. Let me zoom in. Zoomy, zoomy. Let me see if I zoom in for you. All right. So watch when I put a line for them trees. It definitely is doing it up here. See how that works? And you can make your trees bigger, smaller. Vary the size of your trees. Don't make them all the same. But I love how that's looking. See that? That is looking pretty good. And it looks interesting. Right? Does it look interesting? I think it looks interesting. Let's see what happens when we add some on the other side. So this is still zoomed in. You can still see the area I'm working on, okay? And swoop, okay? And I like how it's super defined up here. And then kind of coming down, it's bleeding into this section down here. That just looks interesting to me. I like that. And this is what watercolor is about. Play with your watercolors. Don't just think you got to paint it like a acrylic painting where the paint has to stay put. Sometimes when it bleeds out like this, is kind of pretty and unique. And I love that about it sometimes, is that it's really cool like that. So we're seeing a mist down here, right? We're seeing it's misty down in here, but maybe we want to just very lightly do another little layer of something right in there. Look at that. See how it's kind of going up into there? And that's kind of cool. Now maybe it's too much water on there. It might not be as good as I thought it would be. Who knows? But I won't know unless I try. I don't know if it looks good or not until I try. But I'm going to make just some real thick stuff here. And we're just going to make those little jaggy areas now. Kind of go up into that mountain. And we're just redefining some of these areas. It's still really wet. It's so wet, actually. You might need to dry that. I'm just having fun. This is kind of fun to play with, so I'm liking it. Like it. You know what's really interesting? Just doing this. Just doing little plays right there. Little playing around. I think it looks good, and it's actually all one color, pretty much, for the most part. This is all Payne's Gray, with a little bit of that green that was in there. And what's cool about this, it's larger. This piece of paper is larger than a 5x7. So what I can do is take a mat that I have. Do I have one right here? I think I do. I think this is my 5x7 mat, so we can, you know, move that around, see where we'd want to frame it. Isn't that kind of cool? You can move that around. So I keep that right there just so we can refocus and try something new, right? So super easy, super cool. I'm drinking my tea. But maybe you don't want to do a mountain scene. Maybe you want to do, what do I have on here? I have a waterfall. Oh, let me show you something else that's kind of important to look at. And this will help improve your paintings. And even if you're an artist with any kind of, if you have different types of mediums that you use, this will help you in a lot of different mediums, even in photography and stuff. So I looked up photography and I was trying to find one that's not so great. Maybe it is great. I don't know. The one on the right, to me, and I did crop it. And so that you can see there's barely any definition. You see the little whites of the houses, and that's pretty much it, and a little bit of trees. So there's not a lot of contrast in that. As opposed to the ones on the left with the waterfall and the boats. And I feel like what's more interesting is all of those nuances between the grays and the whites, and then the darker darks of the blackest blacks. And so to me, that just makes those paintings interesting. And the angle. Look at how the boats are going into this center, pointing towards the center. And your waterfall also is kind of flowing towards you and getting the stream larger. So I really like how that looks. I like those two compositions. For me, I really, I like this. I think it'll look pretty all framed up. It's definitely got to dry. It's super wet still. So I'm going to put it off to the side right here and get my other piece of watercolor paper. Now, a lot of times I want to clean off this table a little bit because it has paint, maybe. So I just wipe it real quick. I even have a little vacuum now that I keep on my desk. So if I have papers on here that I want to get, want those to look good, we might do this. What do you think? Like, even though I did do the waterfall and stuff, I don't know if I want to paint the waterfall now. I mean, I like waterfalls, and I do a lot of waterfalls. I do a lot of ocean scenes. I'm not sure which one to do. But maybe we will do this. I don't know. What do you think? You want to do an ocean or you want to do a waterfall? I think if I do the waterfall, I should do it this way, which will make it harder for y'all to see the whole thing, maybe. I don't know. Here, we can do it like that. There we go. And for me, I like to sketch sometimes. With those mountains, I didn't need to because they were pretty much where I was going to just kind of look at things. But here's something that's really cool. So we're going to look at starting the waterfall up here, and it's just kind of flowing, and there's 2 waterfalls. So that's kind of cool. And you can see that it gets a little bigger, right? It gets a little bigger. And then we got some, oh no, a little bit. We are not going to bark. No barking. Shh. But I like making these little, let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to do this with rocks. And we're going to do some bigger rocks and really bigger rocks. And what's cool is there's some like really bigger rocks up here towards the front. And that's what's going to give this interest, is having these rocks closer. I think this is going to be the best one yet, right? And we can make some littler rocks kind of go in there. And I'm not going to draw all these tree branches and stuff. We don't need them. But I do notice there's some trees right behind the waterfall even. So that's kind of cool. We'll do that. Just like that. And I'm going to zoom back out so you can see me start. And I'm going to use that same color, okay? I'm going to do that for my sky. And just adding that water. See how cool? Don't be afraid to use water. This is actually watercolor, right? And I'm going to make my waterfall already this blue sky color, right? So that's just all one color. Even though you can barely see it, it is a tinge of blue in there. But now I'm going to have to mix some more of my Payne's Gray. And we're going to try and make this monochromatic a little, okay? We're just going to try doing that just a little bit, okay? So I'm just going to add some of this dark color in here, trying to avoid going too close to my waterfall because we're just making this that darker color. We're adding the layer using water. Boy, my dogs are just having a good old time today. I don't know if you guys can hear them. They're being a pain. But for some reason, I went to my studio to get my paints and stuff, and I opened up my paint kit thingy, paintbrush thingy, and several of the paintbrushes I like to use all the time are not in there. So I am struggling with these two because I don't normally use these two, but it's okay. Now look at that. That is turning out already pretty. I am feeling it. And the cool thing about this is you can start drawing your brush and getting just a little bit of that Payne's Gray. And I am going in with some dark, right? We want to have some darks on the sides. And I love how this just kind of blends and bleeds out as like little feathers almost. And you can tell in that photo, let me show you that photo again. It's the one in the middle. Okay. If you can see that. I like that. So, but right now, what this is doing some fun little things. Look at that. Just pretty, y'all. It's pretty. And it's all this one color, paint gray. So I want to put some more dark in here and more dark right in here. And then a little bit kind of coming out down there and a little bit down right here. And it's really, there's a lot of nuances in this. You can make these be your little tree trunks if you want. And there's a couple in here. And they kind of go real light in there. But it's just kind of, it's real light. You can make little lines if you want to make those look more like trees. Can you see what I'm doing? I don't know. I'm running out of table. I can't pull it any closer to me, but I can zoom back out. And so I'm just making these little tree trunks look more like trees. Wiggle it. And just because it's still wet, you can do a lot with it. But I'm liking that so far. Trees are always a little wider at the bottom, so widen those and they can blend together, which is kind of cool. See that? Now the thing about these waterfalls that you want to remember is there's not just white waterfalls in the middle. You got to add some dark areas that look like they're flowing down. Same with over here and over here. So you're just going to make it real subtle. Got that? Just a little subtleness. And you can go down a size in your brush. I like to use the largest brush that I'm comfortable with. And sometimes what I do is just wet them, dry it, and you can even fluff that out and not be so stark. Now the bottom of this in the water is going to be really cool. So we're going to have to get some... Oh, Jen, you just said ocean. Sorry, I didn't see that until just now. I was like, what should I paint? But this will be good. Maybe I'll do ocean. I thought I did last week. If you didn't see my video last week, I did the palm trees with the ocean. I did this painting last week. So you can go, it's still up, and watch me paint this step by step. And it turned out really good. And I didn't even touch it up after. I just like how it looks. So sometimes after a live, I'm like, oh, that needs some help. Right? So you can definitely go back and fix things the next morning, the next hour, whenever you're going back and looking at something, right? And you're like, that doesn't look right. So right now I'm just adding these little shadow areas to all of these. But guess what happens when you get closer to the front? You get more definition. And this is called the wet on dry. And it's really, that's wet on wet. See how that bleeds? That's wet on wet. So that's already damp in there. But up here, it's not. So it's very, you can know where it's going to go. So it doesn't bleed out. It doesn't spread. Unless you want it to, you can do this to make your rocks look a little more textured. But the number one tip to making your paintings look good is have that contrast between your distance and your foreground. So a lot of times people want to keep everything the same. Like all in here is the same right now almost. So I need to definitely add some of that contrasting colors. And sometimes you can just go straight in there. Look at that. Look how dark that is. I'm really liking how that looks. And I'm going to add some more rock going up that way. And almost like it's going up the cliff, making a cliff kind of. And you can even add some trees coming in here. Trunks. And those are really cool. And you can add some like little things, little branches. So those are kind of cool. You don't have to go by your reference photo if you don't wanna. You can do what you want. You can make up your own landscapes. But I'm definitely liking making this dark on this side. I think that adds some really pretty dimension to it. So that's what I want you guys to get good at. I want you to get better at. I want you to experiment with is using your darker, use one color and just keep going darker. More paint makes it darker. More water makes it lighter. And that's what I hope you guys are kind of experimenting with today and enjoying. I'm definitely going to need to put some more darks in here. And I love Payne's Gray. Look at the pretty colors in this Payne's Gray. It's just gorgeous. But we definitely want to make this darker. So I need more paint. And just put it in there. Just put it in there. And you can add some more of that, more dark trees in here that look, can have them go off the top of that page and just make them, and you'll learn to do this as you keep practicing, but just making these little wispiness at the base. That looks kind of good. I really like how pretty this looks right there. I may leave it like that. I don't know. Kind of like the mist from the waterfall. Might add a little bit of dark right in there. And see, this can be where you make or break your painting, right? It's like, ooh, it looked better before. Who knows? Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But I'm liking it. I like how it looks. And then, of course, after you've done that, you need to kind of get the reflections from above to the bottom. So there's a white section here for the waterfall. Everything else is going to be kind of dark. So let's mix something that's dark over here, if you can see that. So I'm going to try and avoid where the waterfall is and just kind of go to the left. Okay, I'm going to move my T. T's in my way. So I want to avoid that rock right there and paint around it, okay? But there's my water right there. You can do some water right here. Follow the coastline, streamline, whatever it is. And then also can go right in there. And see how that's bringing that rock out? Now we're going to do it on this side too. We're going to go this way. And join up with them rocks over here. Avoid painting these rocks, okay? Try to avoid them. But I'm just filling this part in to make it reflect the waterfall. And it does look like this water goes all the way that way. Does it? I don't know. Mine's going to. So paint around. Can you see what I'm doing? Paint around that rock. And paint that one flat. And you might be saying, oh, but that looks really stark right there. But guess what? This is watercolor and we can fix that. So now all that's dark. Now I'm going to rinse my brush. And it's just going to be clean water. See how it's kind of clean? Dip it in the water a little bit, but we're just going to muddy the line a little bit. See how I'm doing that out just a little bit? And that just makes it kind of smooth. And you can even add little lines. And that makes it look kind of nice. So that's basically how you can make your paintings look better, is by adding some of that contrast in there. I might even go smaller brush and see if I can get some super tiny areas just right here. There's some of those rocks, and right there. I want that darker color to come out, the stark kind of. We like that. That's what we like. We want to have that definition in there. And that's what makes these kind of pop out. You can have some little twigs coming out of there. You can do a couple in here. You can use the smallest brush you have. You can use a rigger. That might be kind of fun. You can put some more in there. And I'm liking how a lot of this looks. I think I like how it looks. And you can even add some more definition onto your waterfall. A little bit darker in some spots, like it's flowing down. And if you mess up and it's too dark, just rinse your brush, dry it, and you can lift it. Remember, you gotta lift it. But you can pretty much erase anything. It's pretty easy to erase it. But I'm really liking the look of this. Like, it's so kind of soft and ethereal, I guess. I don't know. It looks really pretty. I like it. And this water over here is starting to spread out and push against the paint that was already on the paper. So it's kind of doing that fun little thing right there. And let's see. We're almost done here, I think. Let me show them side by side. And I gotta move a couple things out of the way. Hold on. Don't normally do that, but I'll put them in there for now. Let's see. I'm gonna move this guy just a little bit over to the left, keeping it in the picture, and then I can put this one back, and it'll look really, really good like that. I think side by side. Let me move this out of the way. Over there. Alright, that's all over there. So, let me move this one just a little bit over there. There we go. So, those are two kind of monochromatic, like one color for the most part. And you can see how using darker paint in certain areas defines it a little bit. I might go back in with the Payne's Gray right in here because I think that this needs to be darker now that I'm looking at it. Might do that actually. See what happens if I use this brush. It's very wet though. Gotta be careful. But see, you can get to the point where you're like, oh, it's gonna be too something, too overworked. So you just want it to be defined. So see, I defined that waterfall area a little bit more, and which makes it really good. And I can even go back and do that with the mountain areas. I can define some of these mountains a little bit more and get them to be, although that's super, super wet. But see how that's kind of bringing it down a little bit, the color. And you can do that on a lot of these paintings. You can really get, you can make it darker, you can make it lighter. Well, it is actually harder to make it lighter, but so that's kind of fun to just add that Payne's Gray right in there and make it a little darker. You can even use straight from your palette and make it dark in there. And see how that defines that a little bit more. That's what makes it kind of fun to do. You can just try it and see what happens if I do this. Well, it makes it darker, makes it more defined, makes it more interesting. I don't know. It's just fun. I like it. I like it. I hope you guys like it too. I hope you've been enjoying joining me on my live videos because, you know, sometimes I don't have too many people join in the chat, but I know you all tell me about watching them, so it's kind of cool that you tell me later that you enjoyed the video. So I appreciate all of that feedback and you taking the time to give me a thumbs up and like the video. So you know me, I like to finish with my word for the day, scripture for the day. And you know, I haven't really been looking at the Bible app for that inspiration, but you know what? I could do that today because, you know, if you say you don't have a Bible, you can download this app. It's called the Bible app, and they have a really cool thing. It says verse of the day, has a little video. You can make look at this one, which is an image already created for you to share. So I kind of like that. But today's verse, and it's red letters, which means Jesus said and the cool thing about my church is they've been talking about how Jesus asked questions. So if you're interested in what kind of questions Jesus asked his disciples, you should check Three Circle Church. They have all the past sermons and just had a good one on Sunday. So it was really good. Did we just see someone in the background there? I think it was my husband. He's home, but he's about to leave. So I want to kind of get off so I can say goodbye to him. And let me tell you what today's scripture is. So this is a good one to focus on too, I think. It's Matthew 7, verse 13. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. And I feel like as a Christian, it is hard to walk that narrow path to being in the footsteps of Jesus. He gave us an example how to live. So I really feel like that's important. Hold on, I'll be right there. And I was like thinking, you know, God help me to be obedient, help me to be better with the way I handle everything in my life so that I can be an example to others of how to be like Jesus. So a lot of times it's too hard for me to do it, but when I ask for that help, God is good to give it to me. And I was thinking about it, like we have the Holy Spirit. That's what Jesus said. He's going to send a helper, and that's the Holy Spirit. He helps us. So a lot of times we think we can do everything on our own. We depend on ourselves. We depend on our own things. Oh, hey, Linda. It's good to see you. Aw, thank you for saying beautiful. I try. Okay, sometimes I got to put a little makeup on to look beautiful. But I do think that we settle for helping ourselves and relying on ourselves to be able to handle anything that's happening in our lives when God told us He's going to send us the helper, the Holy Spirit. And the best times of my life are when I have reached rock bottom and I say, Lord, help me. And like everything turns around when I put it in His hands. I'm not saying this is prosperity gospel. I'm just saying that the Lord wants to shine in your life so that you know Him more intimately. And so I feel that's very strong in my life, that I want to know Him and have a relationship with Him. So I hope today's little tutorial helped you. I hope the scripture at the end helps you. I hope you have a wonderful and beautiful day, and I will see you guys next time. Mwah!